This is a film about a voyage above the Arctic Circle to see the region's flora and fauna, including the polar bear and the muskox.
Greenland is a wonderful place. We need it for international security. And I'm sure that Denmark will come along. I think it's costing them a lot of money to maintain it.
The voyage departed from Longyearbyen on Svalbard, sailed along the west coast of Spitsbergen, transited across the Greenland Sea to Greenland, and then south along the east coast of Greenland before crossing the Denmark Strait to finish in Iceland. In part 3, we explore the interesting fjords that branch off from the large Kong Oscars fjord. After dropping anchor in Elp Fjord, we set off on a Zodiac cruise to explore this glaciated fjord nestled in towering mountains. We cruised past the combined snouts of the Gully Glacier and the somewhat larger Seststrom Glacier that are calving icebergs into Elp Fjord. Looking up the Gully Glacier, we could see jagged peaks in the distance. The snap, crackle, and pop of melting ice is due to its non-uniform structure that is laced with micro cracks and pits, such that some parts begin to melt faster than others. This builds up tension in the ice as some parts shrink, whilst other parts still are frozen. Eventually something gives, and the ice cracks with a distinctive snap, crackle, and pop. The combined glacier snouts was some 3.5 miles or 5.5 kilometers long. The scale of the glacier front of the mountains is hard to gauge. However, looking at the zodiacs against the glacier in the base of the mountains, one can see the huge scale of this landscape. The evening primrose, the national flower of Greenland, is called Niviarsiak, meaning young girl in Icelandic. We landed briefly on a rocky islet in front of the glacier snout. The island hosted a number of abandoned eider duck nests, lined with eiderdown plucked from the female's body. A flight of long-tailed ducks flew by. It is a small, slender sea duck. The male has long-tailed plumes most of the year. Back at the ship, it was time to recover the zodiacs, raise the anchor, and then sail to Sigulsal Kapet Fjord to see its wonderful geologic features. Berzeliusbjerg in Sigulsal Kapet Fjord is a geologically very interesting mountain that rises more than 6,200 feet or 1,900 meters above the fjord. Its colorful layers were deposited in an ancient sea some 700 million years ago and subsequently subjected to faulting over the millennia. The highlight of the Sigulsal Kapet Fjord is the alternating layers of limestone, dolomites, mud rocks, and quartzite sediments in Eleanor Bay. These are Ice Age deposits called tillites laid down by glaciers about 550 million years ago, when Greenland was near the South Pole. During this period, it is thought that there may have been global glaciation, and all the world's continents may have been covered by glacial ice and the entire ocean by sea ice. Some of the layers of sediment are red in color due to the presence of the iron mineral hematite. The small snow bunting is an Arctic specialist with a circumpolar Arctic breeding range. There is no apparent limit to its northern range in summer, but in winter it migrates to the circumpolar northern temperate zone. There are many fascinating geologic features to see in the area. However, the most fascinating features are on a small rock outcropping that juts out into Eleanor Bay. The most outstanding feature on the rock outcropping is where the layers of sediment have been folded back onto themselves to form a feature that resembles Jupiter's Great Red Spot. The folding or bending of the rock strata is due to compressional stress, such that the rock deforms in a way that it folds instead of breaking. This process can take millions of years until the pressure is finally enough that it changes shape. Leaving the amazing layers of sediment on the shoreline, we hiked inland up the hill to see more geologic wonders. Certain areas of the layered sediment resemble the layered cake, while others resemble the layered chocolate caramel candy. Although it was tempting, I resisted the temptation to chow down on them. We went on a long walkabout that gave us the opportunity to see the wide variety of geologic features found in the area. The sediments lying flat have been polished smooth by the movement of the glacier that once covered them. As this was fall, the scarlet of the dwarf birch looked amazing. Finally, our hike took us to an alpine lake whose surface acted like a mirror until the wind flared up. Surprisingly, a pair of red-throated loons and their young offspring landed on the lake and started calling. In the winter, the red-throated loon is a nondescript bird. However, during the breeding season, it acquires a distinctive red throat patch, which is the basis for its common name. Hiking on, we traversed a boisterous stream cascading down the hill from a glacier. Finally, it was time to start hiking back to the landing site for our return to the ship. As we sailed onwards to Fleming Fjord, we had a special supper of a roast pig. The sharp peaks of the coastal mountains looked wonderful at sunset. The fulmars following the ship made graceful flypaths against an orange sky. In the morning, we arrived in Fleming Fjord as the sun was rising, and we dropped anchor. We landed on a very wide sandy beach, which except for the frigid water temperature would be ideal for swimming. Landing on shore, we found some relatively fresh tracks of a polar bear in the sand of the beach, alongside that of a muskox. The Fleming Fjord terrestrial sediments are known for fossil content, however, we were unlucky in finding any. We hiked up a deep stream valley and then climbed up to a plateau to view out over the expansive tundra. In the far distance, we could see a muskox lying down and resting on the tundra. At the end of the hike back on the shoreline at our landing site, we had the opportunity to go for a polar plunge. I strode into the Arctic Ocean with trepidation based on previous polar plunges in the Antarctic and at the North Pole, as I knew that the water would be deathly cold.
It's easy to say to wait, but it's friggin' cold.
A sharp drop-off surprised me and dumped me into the freezing cold water sooner than I expected, so I wasn't prepared for it.
Not recommended. Strike that off the itinerary.
Back aboard, we warmed up from the polar plunge and sailed on southwards along the coastal mountains, with a beautiful sunset outlining the mountain peaks. In part 4 of this voyage, we continue sailing south, exploring the east coast of Greenland in Scoresby-Sund, the largest and deepest fjord system in the world, and a visit to Itukortumit, the northernmost settlement on the east coast of Greenland, before crossing the Denmark Strait to Iceland, our final destination. If you enjoyed this film, please subscribe and like. There are many more similar films available on my channel.